with bringing a generator, one they already had, they could continue to maintain their groceries and their feeding, and then we would bring mobile feeding to supplement some of these things. But basically, if people want to be prepared to help at the community level or even at a regional level, like if they want to come from this town and go help in the Springfield tornado, they need to make sure that their family is safe first. Medications. I always talk about, we're such a technology-focused society these days that if your power goes out, your computer will last for 3 hours, and then you have no communication. So I always talk about having those portable battery packs. You can stick 4 AA batteries in and hook it up to any piece of equipment, so you can still make phone calls. That's a few thoughts.
Another thing too is that you don't want everyone to say, I want to volunteer and rush to the Springfield, for example. You want to make sure it's a coordinated effort. Because I know a lot of people in this community and other communities want to help out. So they just need that direction.
Well, actually,
plan, like you were saying.
What we do on that is we have our plans individually with each of our own groups, our own churches, what have you. Is MAVOAD, we coordinate on who does what. But then we have a lot of calls off the street saying, what can I do, what can I do? And groups like Red Cross and Salvation Army and Church Scientology, my group, and then most every other group out there can't take someone in just off the street because they're not Corey checked or what have you. And there could be a lawsuit if someone takes them from a house who doesn't fix it right, et cetera. So we have a couple organizations in Massachusetts called All Hands and also Boston Cares that have waivers so people can come through them and volunteer. So we have a volunteer management section where they'd be in charge, and we have people in charge of all different areas like that.
There's a huge influx of spontaneous volunteers. That's what we call them when a disaster happens. So in other situations, they usually run to the disaster scene and,
want to help them.
But there's a process that needs to be involved. They need to be, educated and give some work process, and then filling up documents, as Kevin said.
That's a good point, Louis. Can we talk about that? So viewers, if you do want to get active and volunteer, don't wait for the fire. Do it now and just you go through the training. Is that a valid point?
That's the key message of the
program.
program.
That's the key message today. Viewers, if you get nothing else, get that.
Get trained. Know what to do.
Soon. Don't wait for something to happen.
Be coordinated in advance.
Know
what to do. Then you can really
be prepared.
It should be proactive, not
So how would they do that? What would they do, Louis? Could you talk about your agency, and then we'll talk about Chris's, and then MAVOAD. How would someone get active like today or tomorrow?
Yeah, for the Red Cross, you can go to our website. There's a specific link there that you can actually fill in your name to become a volunteer for the Red Cross. And then you'll have Corey check. Then you need to attend some disaster services overview and then get some training so you can be proactively be involved with the Red Cross.
And you can do that with other groups too. You could do that with the United Way, who's a member. You could do that with any fraternal organization out there. You can do it with a church you belong to.
I think one thing, that's a great point, Kevin, because one thing is different groups provide different services. They come from a different perspective. I know sometimes for feeding with our canteens, I know I have volunteers that come and say, I really want to help with disaster, and I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor. The Salvation Army doesn't focus on medical care, so I send them to the Medical Reserve Corps. Because they coordinate volunteers from there, and vice versa. For some people, they want a faith-based focus. Others have an incredible experience with a different agency. So I say, look, take your time and look, but it's key, because one thing I feel bad about, and I'll apologize to all volunteers I've offended in the past, but that during the disaster, I know for myself, we'll say after the Springfield tornadoes, 2 hours after the tornado struck, I was not able to use my phone for the next 4 days. So I couldn't take calls, I couldn't receive calls. A lot of people wanted to help. That's not the best time to be involved. Sometimes we can figure out a way to still use you, but ahead of time, work with the agency, fill out the application, get Corey'd and Sorried, get the training you need, because also, too, the training isn't just so that you can help us, but in 9/11, that was the first major disaster that a lot of people had been impacted by. A lot of very well-intentioned people went down without the proper training, and it negatively impacted them because they weren't prepared. So it's a way to protect you as a volunteer to understand what's expected of you, how to take care of yourself. In our intro training to disaster services, the last section is self-care, because it's very stressful, it's very challenging, and to know ahead of time, how do I take care of myself? How do I work with people in stress? How do I work with people like the fire department so I don't step on their toes? I understand how the system works and where I fit in. So it's valuable. It helps you and us.
Also, if you're not badged and working with a group right away, if you want to go out to a disaster area, you'll probably be sent back, because they don't want people going into town looting, getting in the way, getting in the streets where if emergency management's trying to remove debris. Yeah, so you really should get prepared.
That's a good point.
Can we talk about what type of training is involved? If someone wants to volunteer and Googles the Red Cross and goes up and, what kind of training and what's the time frame are we talking about? Is it a week? Is it a month?
Well, it depends on the volunteer in the group.
Okay,
Right.
can you talk a little bit about that? And just to give viewers an idea of what it entails to get trained and Corey?
And also what type of volunteers are you looking for too? Like you mentioned about that people want to help with clothing drive or they want to help with food. Maybe different type of ways of getting involved.
Well, for the Red Cross, we have different services. We have food pantry, we have service to armed forces, we have international services, we have emergency services, we have the blood. So anybody who wants to help at their own turf, you can actually be engaged on that different ways and means to help out.
Well, and to add to training, for instance, and the Red Cross has some terrific sheltering trainings. We don't duplicate that. We come alongside and help them. And there's many agencies. I don't want this to focus just on our two agencies, but since 9/11, I think we have 23 courses now in our National Disaster Training Program that go all the way from this is how you handle food safely on a canteen in a disaster scene, to medic first aid, to psychological first aid, to how do you work on the incident command team and help oversee one of the sections like MEMA or FEMA does. So I would say you start in, sometimes they're an afternoon, a day, a couple weeks, but it's a long-term thing. And then interspersed in that, now there's tabletop exercises where you can actually partner with people, your local police department and fire department. Field exercises where there's a mock disaster. And there's some great learning tools that are available. So I'd say, start the process. We welcome your involvement. We need your involvement. And just start exploring. And there's some great opportunities to be a part of.
And our website mainly is set up for that. So you're wondering what you can do, that's what it does.
Something for everybody?
Yeah, when a disaster hits too, we put up there what to do and what not to do. Because, for example, with Katrina, there was all kinds of clothing sent. Well, clothing that's not sterilized is going to sit in a train or somewhere and cause a problem.
Or
not
cans
be a
of
help.
soup to Haiti. Like it's very difficult to ship. We couldn't even get airplanes into Haiti, let alone boxes of soup from
So that's
New
another
England.
issue, right?
So
is some of the
the best thing you got to do is get involved with MAVOAD, and they'll find the right placement for you.